Hello, everyone, and, well, let's just get straight to it, don't we? J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, has come out by saying that apparently free speech in the UK is under retreat. Published by the Daily Mail, so that just about says it all, doesn't it? So, unfortunately, I'm just going to make this very clear, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolute load of nonsense. You want to know why it's a load of nonsense, ladies and gentlemen? Because guess what? It didn't stop anybody before, and it's certainly not going to stop anybody now. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, when you see people complaining about free speech, ladies and gentlemen, they are under the impression, and Vance, Trump, there's many, many others just like them, but just remember this, ladies and gentlemen, freedom of speech is not the same. They believe that freedom of speech means freedom from consequences. And I don't know if you've ever caught on, ladies and gentlemen, but guess what? Freedom from consequences is not a good thing to idolize. It's not a good thing to aspire to. It's not a good thing to push, because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You are going to be criticized for this. You are going to receive backlash when you say stuff like this. Don't expect that you won't. All they're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, is that, well, they're trying to justify this behavior in the same way that you could argue, a certain political party holding parties after they told the country that they had to stay at home during a worldwide pandemic. In the same way, they suggested the idea that this was all nonsense, that this was something to be laughed at, and they were under the impression that they were all free from consequences as well. And, well, look how well that turned out. Or even the moment when Johnson's time as Prime Minister was up, when basically there was a coup inside the Conservative Party over what had happened with Chris Pincher. Pincher was under the impression, ladies and gentlemen, that he too was probably free from consequences as long as he didn't get caught in the act. Before we go any further, ladies, and by the mind, just so you understand that I'm not biased in all this, it's exactly the same for the other side of the coin. Labour or the left wing, they are not free from consequences either. But guess what? Have you ever seen any of them actually saying this is attack on democracy, this is attack on free speech? No, they haven't. Because guess what? That's how I believe, honestly, the right wing have sort of decided they want to operate. They want to go to extremes. They want to say democracy is under attack. They want to say civil liberties are under attack. They say that civil disobedience with people marching outside with placard sticks, they want to imagine that that is legitimately the way to go. They want to make you believe that you can't actually tackle an issue intellectually or through any careful, planned out precision. They just want you to think that because we say it, it's true, so therefore you've got to be on our side or else. And this was also yesterday when Donald Trump apparently banned, people who are transgender from taking part in national service, or for that matter, even taking part in the army full stop. It's a good thing that we're currently not at war, ladies and gentlemen, because I couldn't think of anything more disastrous than a nation banning a certain group of people from actually fighting when, conscription and people required to fighting was desperately needed. Need I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, is that Donald Trump missed out on, being conscripted during the Vietnam War as a result of bone spurs, which apparently had something to do with him being unable to run or something like that. But with that being said, there would have been plenty of other things for a man who couldn't run could do in Vietnam, or even taking part in some capacity or form. But that's besides the point. So, honestly, just to bring this to an end, honestly, I don't believe a single word that's come out of J.D. Vance's mouth. I honestly don't understand what an American really knows about what goes on in Europe. I don't actually think for 1 second anybody really believes any of this. And finally, if free speech is under attack, then guess what? What's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, in about 5 years' time when I'll sit here and say the exact same things? Because guess what? It hasn't stopped me before. It hasn't stopped any of you guys either. So if it hasn't actually stopped, then how can democracy be under threat from freedom of speech being suppressed if I'm still allowed to have my say? Rule number 2, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to my 10 commandments of politics, you have got to have your say. And guess what, guys? If you can have your say, then freedom of speech will remain intact, and it will remain intact for the foreseeable future. It's when people start telling you what is and is under threat, as though they are the ones who only know what's going on. That's when all of a sudden freedom of speech will no longer free you. But freedom of speech, ladies and gentlemen, is the freedom to say that I am allowed to say what I want to say. But as I mentioned before, it is not the freedom from consequences. So there you are. I think remember the old adage, ladies and gentlemen, just before I go, when I say, just because you can does not mean you should.